Namaste. Is Paul there?
Paul? Paul, can you hear me? I can see Kavita. Should be Paul is also around.
Okay. So time to start. We'll say our prayer. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sahana Bhavatu Sahanu Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya Aviravirmayedhi. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavi virilitam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam bhuvi grinanti ye bhurida janaha. Let we be protected, let we be nourished. Let we strive with energy and vigor. Let our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifest Atman grow in me. Om peace, peace, peace. Your nectar-like words and warm and inspiring life stories, eulogized by learned sages, are indeed eradicator of shoots of ignorance. These are auspicious to hear, and it is propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactor of the world. We are studying Ramakrishna and his divine play. This whole section is the interaction of Sri Ramakrishna and Narendranath features Swami Vivekananda. Now, why it is so important? Sri Ramakrishna was incarnation of God, so he had a mission in this world to preach mankind some life-giving truth which will sustain the human being. And as we know, religion to us, like meditation or cultivation of devotion or various kinds of things. But it is very difficult to understand what is religion itself. So until or unless an incarnation interacts with his disciple, especially principal disciple, we cannot understand the import of his mission. That the message that he brought for this age. So this is very revealing. We have to understand this, that it is not ordinary interaction. If we read for the first time, we may miss this. But as we delve in the teaching and we dive deep in the teaching, then we understand the import of this. So Sri Ramakrishna, as usual, would ask Narendranath about various devotees, or for that matter, even he used to ask about himself. Because by the answer he would assess that devotee, what he or she can understand and also proceed on his or her own path. But Narendranath was very special. Right from the beginning, we see that Sri Ramakrishna had a special love for him. He used to wait for him. Even when he was not coming, then he would go to his place, wherever he was available. And not only we have read about that Sri Ramakrishna went to Brahmo Samaj to meet Narendranath. But even dead of night, he would go in subtle form where Narendranath was studying or whatever he was doing, because he wanted to make Narendranath a fitting instrument for this world, for this age. So with this introduction, we'll see how things are proceeding today. Paul?
Yep. All right. So we're at number 8. Asked by the master, right?
Yes.
Okay. 8. Asked by the master, Narendra expresses his opinion of Kedar. When Kedar left, the master asked Narendra, "Well, what did you think of him? Did you notice his great devotion and how he burst into tears when repeating God's name? It is a sign that a man is Jivan Mukta, liberated in life, if tears flow from his eyes during the chanting of Hari's name. Kedar is really wonderful, don't you think so?" The pure-hearted and vigorous Narendra cherished a deep hatred of men who displayed feminine emotions, be it for religion or for any other reason. He considered it an insult to manliness when a man resorted to tears to attain God, instead of using firm resolution and perseverance. He believed that while a man might completely surrender himself to God, he must also behave like a man and surrender to him in a masculine way.
So here, just a minute. One thing let me clarify. Here, man or woman, that is not the point. Even Swamiji wrote to Miss Mary Hell, cultivate a little manliness. What he wanted to tell is like courage, like taking some strength, boldness, assertion for something. It is not like namby-pamby. He never liked namby-pambiness or that attitude. He used to criticize those who are weeping. Even he used to criticize Latu Maharaj. Latu Maharaj used to, he was not literate, so he would criticize even Sri Ramakrishna, would say, you guru, your disciple and your guru, both are uttering ka, weeping like Krishna. What is this? So Narendra was made in a different metal. So that is very important. It is not hating anyone. It is to cultivate boldness. It is to cultivate courage and the spirit of adventure. In America it is very popular here, adventure. So even people here had that courage to take even go to the moon. So this adventure, in all sphere of life, whatever progress that we see in the world, it is because of this quest. It is not like weeping in a corner. Kurna bolte hai isko. So that means not somebody is like already gone, as it were. Not like that. It is courage, the boldness, that is to be cultivated. Even facing death. Sri Ramakrishna also would say that human being should be like man. Once he has given a word, he cannot retract it. Like hathi ka daat, mard ka baat. Hathi means elephant. Once the tusks come out, it cannot go back. Similarly, a man should give his word and then he should not retract. Again, man, woman, it's not a gender issue. It's a manliness. That means courage, boldness. That is important. Yes, go ahead.
Narendra was therefore unable to agree wholeheartedly with the master, and he replied, "Sir, how should I know? You understand human nature, so only you can say. It's difficult to determine whether a man is good or bad simply by watching him weep and wail. If a man looks at a point for some time without blinking, tears will pour from his eyes. Those who cry when listening to the kirtan of Radha's separation from Krishna undoubtedly do so because they are thinking of their own separation from their wives, or perhaps they forced that mood on themselves. Men like me, who are unfamiliar with that condition, may hear the matur kirtan and not feel any inclination to cry as others do. Thus, if asked, Narendra would always fearlessly express to the master whatever he felt to be true. The master was pleased with that rather than angry, because the intuitive master knew well that there was no theft, hypocrisy in the chamber of the truthful Narendra's heart.
So this is very important. See, when he was facing his guru, he never hesitated to tell whatever he felt. So, this later, Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, told Nivedita, and what he told? He told, the older I grow, the more everything seems to me to lie in manliness. This is my new gospel. So this is the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Swami Vivekananda. Even he said, my mission is not Ramakrishna's, nor Vedanta's, nor anything, but simply to bring manhood to this people. So he said, manliness means what? Even he used to pray, oh mother, make me a man. It's in Bengali it has special connotation. Ma amai manush karo. Manush karo means here it's not man or woman. Manush kara, that means to grow, to be, to have that qualities, those qualities which belong to human being. It's compassion, then helping others. All these are manly qualities. Weeping and always we try to get help from others, that is not manly. That is subservient. It's only just begging all the time. He used to criticize. People, what he said, people saw, Narendranath saw that some people were practicing how to weep just to show up off. So that attitude is not good. And there should not be theft in the heart. That means hypocrisy. There was no theft in the chamber of truthful Narendra's heart. So that is to be practiced. Narendra is the example, a brave man who came alone and he faced the world here in a hostile environment. Even many times he had no food. At least it happened 2 or 3 times for consecutive 3 days. He did not eat. And here he was alone. No help was there. Even when missionaries were criticizing him, and no appreciation came from India. But he never hesitated to give what he wanted to give. People said to be very humble and okay, let us agree with you. Not like that. He said, my time is less. Let me give whatever I have, that truth they have to impart. I don't worry about who will feel what. And he said openly, truth should not pay homage to the society. It is society that has to pay homage to the truth for its own survival. So that's very bold words. And we should not hesitate to face truth, whatever it may be. So this is the central message of Swamiji. And actually, this has come from Upanishads. Swamiji later told that bold, brave, beyond the conception of the present day, stands the great giant minds of the sages of Upanishads. If there is one word that you find coming out like a bomb from the Upanishads, bursting like the bombshell upon masses of ignorance, is the truth is falling and bursting like bombshell, like on the masses of ignorance. It is the word fearlessness. And the only religion that ought to be taught is the religion of fearlessness. This is the teaching of Upanishad. And what is that? What is that fearlessness? Why should we be fearful? Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledayanti apu, na shoshaiti martha. What we are really? We are the self. And nothing can pierce this. No weapon can pierce. And no fire can burn it. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledayanti apu. It cannot be soaked in water, or water cannot weight it. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledayanti apu, na shoshaiti martan. Air cannot dry it. So such is the soul. Why it should be to be weakened? It should be bold enough. That is his teaching. Each one of us is here apparent to the emperor of emperors. Each one of us is heir apparent to the emperor of emperors, are of the substance of God himself. The deathless man stands on the glory of his own self, the infinite, the deathless, the eternal. So that is the central idea of Swamiji's teaching. It's not namby-pambiness. It's no weaklings, not like that. Stand on your own feet. That is the teaching of Swamiji. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. 9. Narendra scolds Rakal for worshiping God with form, and Rakal is afraid. The master reestablishes their friendship. Narendra had joined the Brahmo Samaj shortly before he met the master. When he did so, he signed the pledge of the Brahmo Samaj to believe in the formless, non-dual God and to worship and meditate on him alone. However, it never occurred to him that he would have to follow the social rules and conduct introduced by the Brahmo Samaj. Rakal had been acquainted with Narendra before this, and they spent time together. It is not surprising that Rakal, dependent and soft-natured like a child, was moved by Narendra's affectionate behavior and allowed himself to be guided in all matters by his strong willpower. So Rakal followed Narendra's advice and also signed the pledge of the Brahmo Samaj. Rakal met the master shortly after this event. After receiving instruction from him, the love of worshiping God with form, which had lain dormant in Rakal's heart, reawakened. A few months later, Narendra began to visit the master. He was very pleased to see Rakal there. However, after a few days, Narendra saw Rakal visiting the temple with the master and bowing down to the deities there. This upset the truth-loving Narendra, and he rebuked Rakal, reminding him of his pledge. He said, "You're guilty of hypocritical conduct. You bowed down to the deity in the temple even though you signed the pledge of the Brahmo Samaj." The gentle-natured Rakal remained silent at his friend's blunt remark, and for some time thereafter, he was afraid of Narendra and hesitant in his presence. When the master learned of Rakal's predicament, he said sweetly to Narendra, "Please don't say anything more to Rakal. When he sees you, he is stupefied with fright. Now he believes that God has form. What can he do? Look, can everyone conceive of a formless God in the very beginning?" From that point on, Narendra stopped blaming Rakal.
So here we find Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna is the Bhavasagar. That means so many moods were present in Sri Ramakrishna. So in one way, he was encouraging Narendranath to cultivate formless God. But to some other who cannot conceive such ideas, for them, Sri Ramakrishna had different prescription. And that is why he encouraged Rakhal to worship God with form. So, and not only that, in different ways, Sri Ramakrishna encouraged his disciples to tread on their own paths. So Sri Ramakrishna had all these various paths and attitudes. For Narendranath, that was not time. Later he grew. But apparently, Narendra was jnani outwardly, bhakta within. On the other hand, Sri Ramakrishna was bhakta outside, but within he was jnani. If you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you'll find that whatever Sri Ramakrishna is teaching, with that he would add 2-3 examples to support his argument. It's not that everything should be taken as it is. One should be convinced. And when one is convinced, that only one follows that path. So knowing this, Sri Ramakrishna always encouraged various disciples according to their tastes or their capacities. So here in one instance we find that he was encouraging Narendranath to cultivate truth, and later we'll find that he also encouraged Narendranath to cultivate formless God. On the other hand, we find he also was asking other disciples to follow their own path, like Rakhal liked form with God with form, so he encouraged that. Okay, next.
10. The master attempts to make Narendra believe in non-dualism and Narendra's protest. The master knew that Narendra was an aspirant of the highest order, so from the outset he tried to instill in him the truths of non-dualism. When Narendra first started coming to Dakshineshwar, the master would give him the Ashtavakra Samhita and other non-dualistic books to read. But because Narendra was then practicing a dualistic mode of worship that had as its object the formless Brahman with attributes, he found fault with the non-dualistic treatises and considered them to be atheistic. He would read a little at the master's request, but would then ask bluntly, what is the difference between this Advaita philosophy and atheism? Should the created jiva think of itself as the creator? Is there any greater sin than this? I am God, you are God, and everything that is born and dies is God. What could be more absurd? The Munis and Rishis, the authors of these books, must have been mad. How could they have written such stuff otherwise? The master would smile at Narendra's bluntness and then say mildly, so as not to hurt his feelings, you may not be able to accept these truths at present, but is that any reason to condemn the great sages who taught them? Why do you try to limit God's nature? Keep calling on him. He is truth itself. In whatever way he reveals himself to you, believe that to be his true nature. But at that time, Narendra paid no heed to the master's words. He considered as false anything that had not been verified by reason, and it was his nature to stand against all falsehood. He therefore did not hesitate to attack non-dualism with various arguments. Sometimes he even made sarcastic remarks against it to the master and many others.
So, Narendranath, later Swami Vivekananda, praised Sri Ramakrishna. Bhaswara Bhavasagar. So you are like effulgence. You are shining with the various moods like ocean. Ocean has various moods. Similarly, you have so many moods. So Sri Ramakrishna, as the master, he practiced so many ways. Even he practiced not only Hinduism, but Christianity, Islam, and in Hinduism also Vaishnavism, 5 kinds of Vaishnavism, and 64 types of tantras, and so many Ramayats, and even as Hanuman, as Sita, so many ways. It is impossible to even conceive so many ways how Sri Ramakrishna practiced. But one thing we find here, Narendranath is truthful. He always upheld truth. That's why whatever he thought true, he never hesitated to tell that. And though he knew that Sri Ramakrishna would go to the temple of Kali, he would criticize him. Why you go there? And it's not living. So master would say, Arey, she talks to me. Kotha koi jere. Oh, that happens. That's hallucination. Even he would never hesitate to tell Sri Ramakrishna that it's your hallucination. But Sri Ramakrishna knew his future. So he said, okay, don't worry. Don't read for yourself, just read for me. So how he used to teach, it's marvelous. So later we find that Narendranath, when he was suffering from penury, when his father died and there was nothing to eat. But one thing he could understand, that if Sri Ramakrishna assures him, then everything will happen. And so one day he requested Sri Ramakrishna, but then Sri Ramakrishna said, I am nothing. Ask mother. So Nanda said, but you are to go and ask for me. He said, no. Why not? Why don't you go yourself? Go there. and ask whatever you would ask, she would grant it. That assurance I am giving. And today is Tuesday, that's very auspicious day for worshipping Mother Kali, so go there. And he went there. But he forgot totally and he prayed to Mother. As soon as he entered, he realized the presence of Mother. It's Mother everywhere. And he prayed, "Oh Mother, please give me knowledge, viveka, vairagya, discrimination, renunciation, and knowledge, bhakti, devotion." And then after a certain time he came back and Sri Ramakrishna was waiting. Have you asked Mother for money, etc., for your family? Oh no, sir, I totally forgot it. Is it? You are a fool. Go again. Ask Mother. Whatever you'll ask, she'll grant you. Second time he goes, again he asks the same thing. I don't want anything. Oh Mother, give me knowledge, give me devotion, give me viveka, discrimination and renunciation. Again, second time when he returns to Sri Ramakrishna, he scolds again and he sends him for the third time. This time he remembers. But he thought it's a too small thing to ask from Mother. It's like asking God, a king for a gold. So he could not ask and he again prayed for the same thing, vivek, vairagya, jnana and bhakti. And when he returned, Sri Ramakrishna was waiting and then he asked, hope this time you have requested Mother? No, I could not ask. But I know it is all your play. But you have to assure me that my family is well fed. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, they will have course meal and also clothing. So not to worry. So this way what we find that there was no faith in Mother. But that night, Narendranath asked and requested Sri Ramakrishna, can you please teach me that song, O Ma Tam Hi Tara, O Mother, you are the Redeemer. And he learned that song and the whole night he sang that song. And in the morning he was sleeping. So Sri Ramakrishna was waiting and whosoever came, Naren has admitted Kali today. He was so joyous. And whosoever came, he told, Sri Ramakrishna told him that, Naren has admitted Kali. Because admission of Kali is important. Because this world is the play of Mahamaya. Until or unless one accepts that, one cannot progress, even in a spiritual field. So it is not different, Kala and Kali, not two different entities. It is the same entity when one is creating, preserving and destroying. Sri Ramakrishna would call him Kali. And when he is unattached, a witness, he is Kala, that means Brahman. And he would give example like a snake, when it is not doing anything, like either coiled up or static. So that is like Brahman. But when it is moving, so that is the example of Kali. So anyway, we find in the life of Narendra how transition happened. But that time he was truthful and he even said this is sacrilegious to think oneself God. You are God, I am God, this ghoti bati, everything, cup and saucer, everything is God. And one day it happened that Sri Ramakrishna told him and went into Samadhi. So what to do? Then he went up to Hajra Mahashaya. He was making fun of Sri Ramakrishna. that everything is Brahman. You are Brahman, I am Brahman, this ghoti, bati, everything is Brahman, cup, saucer. And Sri Ramakrishna, after coming down from Samadhi, could not find him. And he saw that he was interacting with Hazra Mahashaya. So he went up to that. And what are you talking about? Oh, we are talking about everything is Brahman. Cup, saucer, everything is Brahman. Oh, is it so? And Sri Ramakrishna touched him. And then he saw, oh, everything is Brahman. First everything was moving around. And then he realized that everything is Brahman. For 3 days and 3 nights, he experienced that. He went to home and he was not eating. Mothers thought, what happened? This son will die. But for him, everything is Brahman. The food is Brahman. And he himself could not find different from food. So he was staring, what has happened? What has happened? And when he went to a pond, Hedua, and there was railing there, he banged his head to see whether it is real or imaginary. So this profound experience changed his life. So this is what how the transition happened to Narendranath. So we'll read it. Yes, go ahead.
11. Pratap Chandra Hazra. At this time, a man named Pratap Chandra Hazra was living in the Dakshineshwar temple garden. His financial condition had deteriorated, so although he made efforts to be religious, his desire for money occupied his mind most of the time. Worldly prosperity was the main goal of his spiritual practices. He did not want to let anyone notice, however, so he always sought praise from others by speaking of high philosophy and selfless worship of the Lord. Not only that, it was his nature to calculate profit and loss at every step, even as he practiced religion. He probably had the idea that through japa and austerities, he could fulfill his desire for money by achieving some occult powers. From the outset, the master understood Hazra's frame of mind and advised him to shun all worldly desires and call on God without ulterior motives. However, not only was the weak-minded Hazra unwilling to accept the master's advice, but also, driven by his misguided beliefs, pride, and self-interest, whenever he found an opportunity, he would announce to the master's visitors that he himself was not an ordinary holy man. In spite of all this, it seems that he did have a sincere but limited desire to be good. We think this because although the master always knew what Hazra was up to, and sometimes scolded him severely for it, he did not drive Hazra away from Dakshineshwar. He just cautioned some of us not to mix with him too much. He said, that rascal Hazra has a very calculating mind. Don't listen to him.
Okay, see, when an incarnation comes, he comes with preparation. And his companions are all kinds of companions. And if you find out, you'll find this Hazra component is within us also. So we have, many of us have that trait that we want to have some gain by religious practice. So this is not to criticize, but it is to show that these are various aspects, and one should be careful about all these aspects, not to cultivate such ideas. And it is not for worldly gain. World is for 2 days. Therefore, one should be cultivating that highest, cultivate to attain that highest goal for which one has taken this body. That means to realize one's own real self or to realize God, not for worldly attainments, not for name and fame, not for money or creature comforts. So this is very important. And how to teach this? So Sri Ramakrishna brought Hazra Mahasaya. That means we should not find fault with him. We are to find that such traits are not good for us. So one should be careful about it. And when we find that that component is within us, we are to carefully remove that component from our character. That is the point. Yes, go ahead.
12. Narendra is pleased with Hazra's intelligence. In addition to Hazra's good and bad qualities, he had a skeptical temperament. And compared to others who had as little education as himself, he was quite intelligent. He could understand some of the discussions on the doctrines of Western agnostic philosophers that were carried on by English-educated people like Narendra. The intelligent Narendra was pleased with him for this reason, and when he visited Dakshineshwar, he would spend a couple of hours conversing with Hazra if it was convenient. Hazra was always humble in the presence of Narendra because of the latter's brilliant intellect. He listened with great attention to what Narendra said and occasionally prepared a smoke for him. Observing Narendra's gracious attitude towards Hazra, we said jokingly, Hazra is Narendra's friend.
Friend. Friend. Sri Ramakrishna would say. Yes. Go ahead.
13. The master's behavior during Narendra's visits to Dakshineshwar. When Narendra came to Dakshineshwar, the master quite often went into ecstasy at the very sight of him. When he later regained some consciousness, he would have long spiritual talks with Narendra. At such times, the master would joyfully try to transmit the highest spiritual experiences to Narendra through words and other means. Sometimes the master wished to listen to devotional songs, and as soon as he heard the sweet melodious voice of Narendra, he would go into samadhi. But this did not interrupt Narendra's singing. Absorbed, he would continue to sing one song after another for hours. When the master again regained partial consciousness, he would request Narendra to sing a particular song. He would not be completely satisfied until he had heard Narendra sing, All That Exists Art Thou. After that, they would spend some time discussing the various mysteries of Advaita Vedanta, such as the difference between the Jiva and Ishvara, the real nature of the Jiva and of Brahman, and so on. Narendra's presence thus created a wave of bliss in Dakshineshwar.
So, jo kuch hai so tu hi hai. So, whatever is there, it is that same truth or same Brahman, same God. Though in various disguise, in various forms, in various hues and colors, but it is the same God that exists. So this is what he used to listen from Narendranath and many other songs. And he had a melodious, a beautiful voice that pleased Sri Ramakrishna. And not only Sri Ramakrishna, to all listeners. He had that sonorous voice. So this is like to just, he's preparing the ground. Yes, go ahead.
Swami, can I just ask
Yeah, please go ahead.
That song, Jo Kucha Hai So Tu Hi Hai, in Hollywood there was a devotee who sang that song so beautifully, and I'll try and find the recording and play it for you, because her voice was incredible, and I don't know whatever happened, but that song I remember so well.
Okay, good.
Now I
Well,
know how to sing
Very nice. Yeah. I
So,
think this is that quotation is there. You read that one, number 4.
well, let me see
Footnote.
that.
Footnote.
I have joined my heart to thee, all that exists art thou. Thee only have I found, for thou art all that exists. O Lord, beloved of my heart, thou art the home of all. Where indeed is the heart in which thou dost not dwell? Thou hast entered every heart, all that exists art thou. Whether sage or fool, whether Hindu or Mussulman, thou makest them as thou wilt, all that exists art thou. Thy presence is everywhere, whether in heaven or in Kaaba. Before thee all must bow, for thou art all that exists. From earth below to the highest heaven, from heaven to deepest earth, I see thee wherever I look, all that exists art thou. Pondering I have understood, I have seen it beyond a doubt. I find not a single thing that may be compared to thee. To Jafar it has been revealed that thou art all that exists.
So जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. So this is a very nice song, and this is the gist of that song. So this, and Sri Ramakrishna wanted to impress Narendranath that whatever we see, it is God and God alone manifesting in so many forms. So anyway, go ahead.
14. Narendra joins Hazra in criticizing non-dualistic philosophy. In ecstasy, the master touches Narendra. One day, the master told Narendra various things regarding the oneness of Jiva and Brahman according to non-dualistic philosophy. Although he listened attentively, Narendra did not understand. When the masters finished speaking, Narendra went to see Hazra. While smoking and discussing that topic again, Narendra said, "Can it ever be possible that the water pot is God, that the cup is God, that everything we see and all of us are God?" Hazra joined Narendra in ridiculing the idea, and they both burst into laughter. The master was in an ecstatic mood, and when he heard Narendra laughing, he came out of his room, holding his cloth under his arm like a boy. "What are you talking about?" he asked them. Smiling, he touched Narendra and went into samadhi.
Go ahead.
15. Narendra's extraordinary experience as a result of the master's touch. Narendra later related this to us. That day, my mind underwent a complete revolution at the marvelous touch of the master. I was aghast to realize that there really was nothing whatsoever in the universe but God. I remained silent, wondering how long this state of mind would continue. It didn't pass away all day. I got back home and I felt just the same there. Everything I saw was God. I sat down to eat and I saw that everything, the plate, the food, my mother who was serving it, and I myself, everything was God and nothing but God. I swallowed a couple mouthfuls and then sat still without speaking. My mother lovingly asked me, "Why are you so quiet? Why don't you eat?" That brought me back to everyday consciousness, and I began eating again. But from then on, I kept having the same experience, no matter what I was doing, eating, sitting, lying down, or going to college. It was a kind of intoxication that I can't describe. If I was crossing a street and saw a carriage coming towards me, I didn't have the urge to get out of its way for fear of being run over, as I would ordinarily. I said to myself, I am that carriage. There's no difference between it and me. During that time, I had no sensation in my hands or my feet. When I ate food, I felt no satisfaction from it. It was as if someone else were eating. Sometimes I would lie down in the middle of a meal and then get up again after a few minutes and go on eating. Thus, it happened on those days that I would eat far more than usual, but this never upset me. My mother became alarmed. She thought I was suffering from some terrible disease. He won't live long, she would say. When the first
Go ahead.
When the first intoxication lost some of its power, I began to see the world as though I were dreaming. When I went for a walk around Hedwa or Cornwallis Square, now Azad Hind Bagh, I would knock my head against the iron railings to see if they were dream railings or real ones. The loss of feeling in my hands and feet made me afraid that I was becoming paralyzed. That overwhelming intoxication didn't leave me for some time. When I did at last return to normal consciousness, I was convinced that the state I'd been in was a revelation of non-dualistic experience. And then I knew that what is written in the scriptures about this experience is all true. From that time on, I had no doubts about the truth of non-duality.
So he had doubt, and what Sri Ramakrishna wanted? Sri Ramakrishna wanted to instill that Advaita mood in Narendranath. And later also it happened when he was traveling all over India. It used to happen that he would faint. So somehow he would gather a little strength and would say, Atmaiva hi prabhavati na jada kadachit. The self alone abides and nothing, this not material. And that way he used to take the strength and would continue his journey. So this state, it is not a figment of imagination. It is possible to experience in one's own life. Then all other things seems like dream. Swapnavat, like dream. We don't say it is dream, but dream-like. That means we don't give importance to that. The only importance is one's own real self. And that self is manifesting in so many forms. It is like a paint of a painter. Everything is soaked with the self. Sri Ramakrishna would say that everything is like jore roeche, soaked in fever. So this is a very special Bengali expression. Like when somebody is suffering from fever, he feels that everything is soaked in that mood. So that is the state of Advaita realization, what Narendra was fortunate to gain by the touch of Sri Ramakrishna. And it was to establish Narendranath in that mood so that he can do a great work. It was not for everybody. And it is not for everyone. Those who follow devotion, they are welcome to do so. And it is a beautiful and very enjoyable state that I am doing everything for God. I am servant of God, I am friend of God, I am son of God. Well, in various moods, it is good. Even enemy of God is also not bad. So, all these moods are with the personal God. Transcending that personal God or those moods, one can go beyond. That we learned from Narendranath. Yes, go ahead. Time. Okay, so time is up. So we'll stop here. It's very interesting to see how Sri Ramakrishna interacted with his disciples, to highlight various moods, various ways, paths, aspects of divine life. So, is there any question? I think there is nothing. Yes, go ahead.
Swami,
Yes?
Swami, Holy Mother says to have deep faith in Sri Ramakrishna, as a child has faith in the parents.
Right.
What does that mean, and how does one gain it?
Be like a child, impose, that's why na, Paramahamsas keep few children with them to impose that mood on themselves, like a child. মায়ের হাতে খাই পরি মা নিয়েছেন আমার ভার. You are like a child. You depend on mother. We also depend on mother. So everything mother provides. No worries. Any difficult time also would come, nothing to worry. It's a child. A child may suffer from cancer. He is not worried. Mother knows because mother is taking care. So who should worry? It is mother who would worry. So by practicing one attains that. This is the spiritual path. It is not in theory. It is in practice. So impose that idea that I am a child of mother. Mother is taking all care. Then you'll find it is not a story, but this is real life teaching. Okay, by doing it, one can cultivate that attitude. And we see in Sri Ramakrishna also was a divine child. And within us, most of us, we are like that. Though we grow up with age, but the child nature remains within us. Yes? You have some question?
Did Hazra understand why Sri Ramakrishna touched Narendra and he didn't touch Hazra?
This is imaginary question. This is to depict to Narendranath. See what happens with you when you see something, your reading is different from all other people. Your reading of that incident is different from all other people. We have our world. Your world is your world. My world is my world. My concept of world, my appreciation of world is mine. You have different. So this everybody is subjective. What subject thinks. So here we can answer a theoretical question. What would have happened? As I told in the beginning, Hazra Mahasaya came with Sri Ramakrishna to depict a situation, a character, which are not helpful. Let us take that one. What happened to him, it is beyond our consideration. Whether he understood or not. Actually, Sri Ramakrishna depicted himself as Hazra Mahasaya to highlight that we should not follow that. You understand? You see, a director gives various characters their part to play so that the idea is developed. In a drama or in a cinema, a director is there. So he asks hero to deliver some dialogues, and the villain comes and he opposes. So it is the director who directs both. So it is to depict that what is helpful in spiritual life. We have to take that one. What happened, what was his mood or his realization, that's not our purview to understand or to say, even explain. Whatever happened, that is not that important. Important is that Sri Ramakrishna wanted to teach Narendranath that state of Advaita. What happens that time? Narendra was skeptic. He did not believe. Even he thought it is hallucination of Sri Ramakrishna. But in one hand, he had to admit Kali, and on other hand, he had to admit that Advaita philosophy, Advaita experience, not only philosophy, experience, he had to. That is important. What happened to Hajra or the pillars in the Dakshineshwar Kali temple? The pillars are still there. So you can see those pillars, whether they experienced or not, that's not our purview. Right?
And one thing is very clear, right? That Hajra came with different intentions. His intentions were not
Sri Ramakrishna himself is Hajra. What I am saying, director plays various parts in his own drama. That's why he asks, okay, you tell this, and you fight with hero. It is director who is doing. Say you are writing a story. You conceive a hero, you conceive a villain. Because you are the author. So author, in one way, he is depicting what is hero, or what he should do, he should tell, speak. On the other hand, he is also writing the dialogues of a villain. So it is director who is depicting this way to teach the audience a lesson, or say to depict some truth. So Sri Ramakrishna comes with all the retinue. That's why we don't find faults with Hajra. It is to show a character that he brought Hajra Mahasaya. But very interesting.
I had a
Eh?
Yeah, Akshay had a question.
Yes, Akshay.
like some people I see that they cry listening to katha about God, and they say that tears will clear our sins. So, but they are harming themselves.
Yes, like a weakening of one's mind. They imagine something, they are relative, or like as as Narendranath said, they may think of their wives or etc., etc. And it is weakening of the psyche. That is not good. If it comes after that, after cultivating, say it is like after cultivating strength of character, when one overwhelmed by such experience and then he weeps, then it's not harmful. But imposing that weakening ideas in oneself, that is not good. That is the point. See, some people would do for other reasons also, like to get appreciated. See, I am weeping. Nobody else is weeping. And she would show also and sob loudly so that people would understand, oh, see how devoted he is. So one should be careful about all these in a spiritual life. So that is the point. Right? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tassat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So Swamiji used to criticize, ka bolte kende akul, uttering ka. So Sri Ramakrishna also said it is like this. There is a small pond and an elephant enters into it. What happens? The water is in turmoil. But if there is a big lake, even 1,000 elephants may enter in that lake. But there is no ripple for that. Similarly, if a person is small container, a little of some mood will destabilize him. But if a person is great, then even thousands of such spiritual moods will not disturb him. So, those who imitate or those who just feign to show off, they are of small-minded. But if it is natural and it comes automatically, when his mind is strong, then it is good. Says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or even Sri Ramakrishna would weep like water is flowing, like pitchkari. That means what? Like a syringe, water cannon.
Water.
So that is not harmful. If someone is showing off something, that is harmful. That is why we should be strong enough. That is why we must cultivate manliness, courage, boldness, strength. These are important. And then comes that, when that comes, then you can withstand and no ripple will come. And ultimately when you are overwhelmed, then what happens. So thank you very much. It's very nice to even think about all these things. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.